Welcome to Cora's Cottage, where things are homegrown and handmade. I started my journey in town on a small city lot where I grew a garden and preserved most of what I grew. While I was in town, I continued to learn kitchen and other homemaking skills. However, recently, my husband and I have had the opportunity to move out into the country. This means we have more space, and I will be expanding my garden and preservation skills this summer. I want to continue to expand my homesteading and homemaking skills as well. Follow along with me on this journey as I share what I learn. I had a bunch of potatoes that were starting to sprout eyes, so that means that it was time to go ahead and do various things with them. So I've made some gnocchi, I've made some French fries, and I decided that I also wanted to put some hash browns in the freezer for quick and easy breakfasts and meals throughout the week. So I'm just going to break the eyes off of these potatoes and then peel them because they are store-bought and they've been sitting, so their peels are tough, so I don't really want to include those in my hash browns. So I'm just going to peel them and wash them. Then while they sit, I'm going to go ahead and put them in water while I peel the rest. That way they don't get brown, and this will help pull some of the starch out. So I'll let them sit in that water while I finish peeling and while I get everything else set up. Now I could leave them in this water overnight to help pull out starch, but instead I'm going to go ahead and just rinse them really well until that water runs clear, and then I'm going to proceed with turning them into hash browns. Now, if I was using new potatoes that I had dug fresh from the garden, I would just go ahead and wash them up really good, cut out any bad spots, and then use them as is with the peel on. This is because that peel wouldn't be thick and tough like these store-bought ones are, and so they would, one, grate really well, and two, you wouldn't notice them in the hash browns like you will with potatoes that have been sitting on a shelf and have a thicker, tougher peel. I mentioned that I will be leaving these potatoes in some cool water in this bucket while I finish peeling the rest of them to help pull some of the starch and keep them from discoloring. Now, like I said, part of it is for an aesthetic purpose so that they don't darken, but the other part is to pull out starch. Now, this is because it can help make potatoes a little bit easier to digest. So I won't just be soaking them here, I will also be soaking them when I finish grating them, but this also means that they are going to be very, very wet, and so I will show you later how I hope to solve that problem and keep them from sticking together quite so bad. However, I will say that it seems like no matter what you do, potatoes, once they are grated, are going to stick together some, so this is why it is very important to not skip the step of flash freezing them on cookie sheets or another large flat surface to keep them from being one giant ball that you can't get apart to use in smaller quantities for breakfast or meals. When working with potatoes, I find that it is especially important to clean my work surfaces often, especially if I'm going to leave anything sit for any period of time, because that starch will cause your surfaces to discolor and it can be quite sticky, and so cleaning it early and often helps to keep your work surfaces from looking quite so bad. So I'm going to take the time here to go ahead and wipe down my counters, rinse out my buckets and all of my utensils I've been working with, and make sure that I just have a nice clean surface so that when I get done for the day and go to clean my kitchen, I am not working with a really sticky, nasty mess. Then it's time to get my shredder all set up and ready to go. I just use a KitchenAid shredder. Now, I have done this by hand in the past. It is doable. It just takes more time, and I find that if you're going to do it by hand, it is a lot easier if you bake your potatoes first, but it definitely affects your texture of your hash browns. And I like the texture of a hash brown that has been made from a raw potato better. And I have one of these graters, so I just find this to be a lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and I just run them through one at a time, putting constant pressure. I like to run my KitchenAid at about a 4. This seems to work the best. The low speed is far too slow, but I find the faster speeds to be just a little too much and to work my mixer way too hard and cause it to get hot very quickly. Now, this will vary depending on what type of shredder you have or food processor you have and are using. Some will be made to do this a little more, and some are going to be a little bit slower, like this KitchenAid. And I will say that my KitchenAid is starting to struggle. I have used it a ton. It has been a workhorse in my kitchen, making bread weekly, if not more often, helping me grind meat into burger and other ground mixes, and then helping me to shred cheese and potatoes, zucchini, all kinds of garden produce. So it has been a workhorse in my kitchen. I've only had it a few years, but I really do not think they are intended to be used quite as heavily and as hard as I have used mine over the past several years. Now it's time for the trick to get your potatoes dry after you've shredded them and soaked them. So I shred them into that big stainless steel bowl, then I fill it and cover it with water, and I let it sit there for a few hours, all the way up to overnight sometimes. Then I'm going to drain them out, and I'm going to rinse them with cold water until the water runs clear. Then I'm going to take them and I'm going to run them through a strainer and let the water drip out, and then I'm going to flip them over onto towels and rub them dry. Now, a trick here is to use a tea towel or similar type of towel in between the bath towel and your hash browns. This is because if you don't, you can get those little fuzzies off of bath towels all over your hash browns, and that can be a nightmare to try to pick out. So using a tea towel or a similar type fabric in between your bath towel and the hash browns can solve this problem. Then I just pick up my tea towels one at a time and I dump them onto parchment paper lined cookie sheets and spread them out into a nice thin layer. I don't want to get these any thicker than the edges of my cookie sheets, so 1/4 to 1/2 inch, because these are going to freeze that thick, and I don't want them any thicker than that for when I'm going to go make hash browns for breakfast and other meals. So I just spread them nice and even across the pan, and then I will pop these in the freezer for about 6 to 12 hours. Usually I will pop some in the morning and then again in the evening, because a lot of times I have 3 to 4 batches, because I'll only use 3 or 4 cookie sheets and I just don't have the freezer space for more than that. So that allows me to do a rotation that is easy and fast, because most of the work is being done by the freezer, and it just takes a couple minutes for me in the morning and the evening. When the hash browns have frozen nice and solid, then I will bring them up and break them apart and put them into gallon freezer bags or 2-gallon freezer bags. Today I've decided that gallon freezer bags work better, and I make sure that I go ahead and label these with the month and the year and that they are hash browns, so that they are easy to identify in the freezer and so that I know which ones to grab first because I want to use the oldest before I get into newer hash browns. So go ahead and break those up and put them in bags until they're full. Then I squeeze out any excess air and pop them back into the freezer until they're ready to use. I have had these in the freezer for about 3 months. They do start to get some light freezer burn ice crystals at the 3-month mark. So keep that in mind if you're going to be storing them longer than that. They still taste fine. You just definitely have soggier hash browns and have to cook them longer if you want that nice crispy golden brown hash brown. So these will be used in the next 3 months, I am sure, because I didn't really make that many. I only made 2 or 3 gallon bags of hash browns, and we will go through these pretty quickly in our house. Some of our favorite ways to make hash browns is to just take them straight from the freezer and toss them into a hot cast iron skillet, and they will fry up pretty quickly. You only need about 10-15 minutes to get a nice golden brown hash brown that is perfect to go alongside your eggs for breakfast.